welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today, the man who is thoughts become things, Neo-Positivity. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Neo, this is a fun day too because we got David Strickle in the house joining us and talking about the tire practice and all that good thing. And
nice. I saw the name. I said, "Is that David? Is that the David I'm thinking about?"
That's the David you're thinking about. That's the one, the one and only. Yeah, good stuff. Which is also good too because I know you have to kind of cut out partway through, so this is all going to time out perfectly. But I figure, since you're only going to be here for like the first half, I'm thinking we're going to do this first half where you and David are doing the conversation, and I'll pick up and I'll do the second half with David because you always have some interesting questions for any of the guests, and with David, I think I can imagine.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm A-okay with that because I have some abundance issues we need to tackle.
All right, that's good. David, welcome once again. Welcome back. Good to have you.
Always good to be here, and Friday it's always fun to be in a Friday. So I'm not always here on Fridays. This is good.
Yeah, that's true. You're usually here like a Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that, aren't you?
Yeah, usually midweek.
Yeah, that makes
sense. But your show is so popular, I just take what I can get at this point.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of fun around here. That's what makes it your daily dose of happy.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm not going to even say a whole lot more. I'm going to just turn the mic over to Neo because you said you got abundance issues there, my friend.
Yeah, you know what? I've been seeing a lot and I've been experiencing a lot myself, but I also saw something. I saw that this isn't being live streamed to my channel, so I wanted to make sure I posted it.
Oh, I forgot it, didn't I? I'm so sorry. I normally do that on Friday. I completely forgot.
No, yeah, it's all good. Posting the link. Send everybody to YouTube for a change. I usually send everybody to Facebook.
Right. Okay.
You just
gotta get those people in there so they can see what's going on.
I'm live on LOA Today, baby.
There you go. All right.
There you go. So the money blocks. It's such a huge thing, and when you talk about abundance, that could go 50 different ways sideways. You could be talking about abundance. By the way, I love that mic. I have to get me one of those that lights up. Abundance could be your health, your wealth, your love, your happiness. And it's a block. There's a huge block there. And I know you have a whole boot camp where somebody can go through a process. But, for someone who's broke, just doesn't have time, they want something that they could just work on during the daytime, as far as being able to say the phrase, I'm abundant, or, without the ego coming and kicking their back. And what would you give somebody that they could just start with today to just pull themselves out of the deep, dark depths of what society has taught them?
I refer to society's teachings as the Matrix.
Hey.
I love talking about the Matrix because the Matrix teaches us to be afraid, and the Matrix tends to teach us to be limited in our thinking. And the Matrix certainly has a lot of teachings about money, that it's hard to come by, it's difficult, it's evil, people that have it are bad, all of these things that we have out there. So in our practice, we do a lot of what I call detuning, because if your vibe has been broke, and if you're broke, that means your vibe has been broke, right? We all know that and accept that. And it's not shocking that someone's vibe would be broke because, again, we have all of these elements of the Matrix that push that stuff all the time. A lot of us were raised by parents who were very much products of that Matrix. Money's hard to come by. You've got to go to school. You've got to work really hard. You got to save your money. It's going to be really hard for you to buy a house. There's just so much negative, talk about money that's just built into our society. And the reason for that is because it makes us compliant. If we're fearful about money, we're going to do things that we don't necessarily want to do to support someone else's dream, i.e. work, things like that. So I like to kind of get to the root of stuff. Like, what's the root of my belief system that I stay in this perpetual state of being broke? Because you can do affirmations and you can meditate and you can, go sit in your car and I am wealthy, I'm abundant. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Everything has the power that you give to it. But the issue is that we're not static beings vibrationally. So you're not always at the top of your vibrational spiral all the time, where it's easier to believe these things. And certainly when you're out in nature and you're breathing and you're appreciating and you're affirming, that's great. If you like doing that, keep doing that, because that stuff is good. But then when you get back into your life, when you're back at work and you're opening your emails, or you're at home opening your bills, or your kids are coming in saying we need money for XYZ, or why don't we have a new car like our friends' parents do, all of that reality stuff just tears all that other work down until you start detuning that stuff. So if somebody is at baseline 0 or even negative, you've got to find a way to appreciate where you are first, because the demonization of where you are is the very thing that keeps you in that perpetual, remanifestation of those same circumstances. When I started, when I left my corporate job in 2017 and started teaching the Taya practice, I went through a whole roller coaster of manifesting money without a job. I had always been good at manifesting money in my adult life, even though I grew up poor, because I always tied it to employment. And I built this belief system that if I had this great job and did this, had this title, that I'd have all this money. Well, that belief came true and I manifested a big income. But then when I started being self-employed, teaching this, I had a whole different set of challenges, because that paycheck didn't show up regularly every 2 weeks. And my income was a direct reflection of my vibe. And I knew it because I taught it. So I took this step to quit my corporate job, jump out of the airplane without a parachute, as they say, start the business without a whole lot of money. To me, money in, money out, I'm bringing this much in, but I'm spending this much and I'm always good with it. The universe always takes care of me. That is my belief system. And I will tell you, since 2017, that has proven to be true. But I created some sort of tests for myself. And one of my favorite stories was about a year or so into the business, I had really run through my nest egg and I was supporting myself just from the business. And it was only a year in and I was broke. My bank account was overdrawn. I had no money coming in. I had an expensive house I was living in. I was driving an expensive car. I had all my fancy stuff, but I literally had no money. And I remember going to the supermarket with coupons. I'd never used coupons in my life. My mother did when we were poor growing up, but I never, as an adult, ever bothered with a coupon. And I remember just making peace with, I'm driving up in a $90,000 car. I'm wearing a Rolex watch and I can't afford bacon without a coupon. And I remember just thinking, this is so cool. This is a fun time for me because I created this for myself. I know that I'm learning something in this. So if you're stuck in that space, you've got to start loving it and enjoying it just to start the energy moving in a different direction. Because if you find yourself, what happens is when people get in a law of attraction, they start doing their things. They might see a little extra money flow in, but inevitably they feel like a rubber band's kind of pulling them back into that old vibration. I know you work with that. Yep. That rubber band is pulling them back into that old vibration and they don't know how to break free from it. So you've got to start finding little tricks of the mind to start loosening up your vibe in your reality. Make it a game. If being broke can be a game, and make it something that's fun just to loosen up the energy and make peace with where you are so that you can then start moving in a more positive direction. And then we have, teachings on the financial pyramid and all of that stuff that are very valuable and can change your life. But you bring up a really good point, though. If you are stuck in being broke and you are hopeless and you can't go afford to take some program, what do? You start loosening the energy up. You start loosening up that negative money vibe by making it fun and enjoyable and something that you appreciate.
It's funny. I just, in the past 7 days, I forget what book it was or what I saw, but they basically said that we have this range that we know that we're good. There's a low limit where we're not going below. And there's an upper limit that we're not going above. And we tend to manifest that range because we're so confident in that range. And you could up that range and you can, make it lower consciously and being aware and using all the exercise. But it made so much sense because I look back at the ranges And I'm like, yeah, there was a part where I was just 100% confident. There's always a part where I'm 100% confident I'm not dipping below that number. Like, I don't care what happens on Earth. Aliens can come right now. I'm not dipping below that number. And that confidence keeps me above that number. But on the same exact note, because there's also a threshold of where I've been at, I'm so confident in that, I'm not breaking that threshold either. And it becomes a thing where you're trapped in this bracket. I love that when I first heard it, and I said, okay, it's time to expand that bracket. It's time to do, like you said, it's funny. I got this huge rubber band I found, I saw on the floor at this convention, and I found it the other day, and I was just playing with it while you were talking, and you said something about rubber band. I was like, hey, got one right here. But that's exactly what you do. You start to flex on that higher number. You know, whether it could be whatever, to say 10 grand a month, you start to flex that to 12 and 13 and start seeing what happens. You know, I mean, expectations is a huge part of that too. You know, you can't just say it a million times and not really expect it. You know, you have to expect it, which is, you know, part of the money block. How do you expect something you've never had before, something you've never seen before, your parents haven't achieved before, no one you know has achieved before? And those are those limiting beliefs and negative narratives that we got to clear out.
Well, I love it too when we have evidence of where the universe shows up for us in other areas, and we have to realize that I can take that system that has created all these great friendships in my life, or my excellent health, or you know, whatever it is that you've got going on that you love in your life. We all have something. I can take that and just lift that whole energy system and plop it down on another topic. What I realized for me was that it was never really about money. I think that I understood law of attraction so early on that I didn't even care about money. It was more things. And when I turned 40, I was living in a scenario that I looked around one day, and I didn't feel rich necessarily, but I looked around and realized, wow, when I was a teenager, this was what rich was to me. You know, the big house, the fancy refrigerator, you know, built in, the German cars in the garage, all that stuff. And I'm here, and I have made it happen. And if money isn't happening, it's because I didn't really focus on money. I focused on the stuff instead. And I realized that the universe shows up to deliver the stuff because that's my belief system. And that has been true. And that's when I needed to start working on money once I became self-employed, because once I was self-employed, that irregular, you know, ebb and flow of money became a factor for me where it wasn't before. But no matter what was happening with my money, the nice house, the nice cars, all the things that I thought I needed to be happy at one point, all that stuff continued to be stable and show up for me. And my lifestyle has never changed in all these years. Never changed.
And you know what? I wanted to ask you this. Am I correct in saying that anytime you get into those negative moments where your mind is just like, all right, I've been stagnant for 2 months now, nothing's progressing, I've tried 6 different things, none of them have worked, that's when you lean into the present and appreciating what you have? Like that's your wake-up call. All right, I see where I'm going, let me get present and try to, you know, find some things about now that are great. Like, is that what you do?
Yeah, well, that's always a helpful thing to do, because it raises your vibration, and we're all better. I don't want to say better we're more effective creators of the things that we want to experience when we're up than we are when we're down. But I think
Is that your go-to though?
My go-to is getting myself unstuck. The being stuck. If I'm stagnant, I told a story the last time I was on here about how I was stagnant last year, not financially, but just in interests. I was bored. I literally manifested such an easy life that I had nothing stimulating me. And Walt reminded me that I came on the show in September of last year and said, life is really, really good. So good. I think I said I was bored, right?
Well,
I literally had everything I wanted.
You also said, besides that you were bored, that you were thinking about kind of dipping down into the negative territory just to stir things up a little bit.
I wanted to blow my life up. And guess what I did? My house caught on fire. My home that I spent a year creating, I took most of 2022 off and just focused on building this house. We remodeled it. And I picked out everything, every plant, every fixture, every light switch, every piece of furniture, every finish, every color. I completely had this house the way that I wanted it, and I wasn't working much. I was doing my podcast. I was probably working 2 hours a week, and I had everything. And I got bored, and I knew that I needed to do something to disrupt that boredom and disrupt that complacency, because complacency is not good. We're expansive beings by nature. And we all, I hear a lot of people in the law of attraction world believe or say that they want to sit and do nothing and manifest money. And you can do that. You can do that. I have done that. Exactly. I've done it. And I got very bored because I wasn't creating. Yeah, I'd had boot camp for 5 years. We'd had plenty of people go through, and working with all the people was fantastic. And I just sort of got burnt out, and I shifted my focus to this remodeled project. And then when it was coming to a close, I was telling Walt apparently how bored I was. And that was in September. By December, the house was gone and starting all over
you
again.
Saying that. It must have been on the Friday show where I was here, because I remember you saying you were in that space.
Maybe so. Careful what you.
If I remember correctly,
I wish for. I don't regret it at all, though. The house burning was great. It's kicked me back into the Taya gear. And the interesting thing about my boot camp is that I wanted it to sort of wind down and stop, because I was burnt out from teaching it. And every time we were kind of getting to the last graduate, somebody else would show up and say, "I've got to take boot camp." It's been going continually since March of 2018, nonstop. More enrollments now, and I don't even talk about it that much. It's just amazing how it just keeps going forward no matter what I do. And now I've launched the new podcast about the Taya practice, because I don't care about the commerce end of it as much. I want to teach this stuff to everybody. I want to teach this stuff far and wide, because the practice is what gets you on that path of improvement. Having some sort of a daily thing that you're doing, like you said, where you're upping. What did you say? Where you're sort of upping that ceiling, on a regular basis of whatever
raising
you
the
want.
roof, baby.
Yeah, raising the roof. I love that. You're always saying, "Hey, I can go higher and higher and higher," whether it's financially or just with your source allowing in your life, which is my whole thing. Is just, wow, there's no ceiling to source consciousness and the clarity that comes with that, and I love that. That's my favorite manifestation of all, is that source clarity of what humanity is all about. At a time when humanity seems like it's unraveling a bit, having that clarity really allows you to appreciate all of that.
David, a little clarity. If I remember correctly, you spent that year redoing the house. Wasn't it the day after you finished? That's when the fire happened, something like that.
Ironically, the landscaping was the last thing we did. I think we talked about that some.
Yeah.
We paid the landscaper on a Thursday. He was done. Last thing we did was the landscaping, and we paid the landscaper on Thursday, and the house burned on Monday.
Yeah.
Down.
So I had a weekend.
Completely.
I had a weekend with my completely done house.
And it was completely gone, or just a part of it got damaged?
No, it's part of it is still there. The back part of the house, the whole attic burned, and then the house had a lot of damage just from the water, because they pumped water into the house for hours. But the fire was all the way through the attic across the back of the house. So the roof is off. The facade is fine. You drive by and it looks fine, but the whole back of the house is burned. Walls missing, roof missing. Completely torn out, some major rooms in the house and stuff like that. And then smoke damage everywhere.
Wow. That's
so
crazy.
it was an interesting experience. But the thing is when it was happening, though, I've done enough work to where I sat there watching the house burn thinking, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is what I'm manifesting now. Okay, let's see, what's going to happen. And then there's been ups and downs since then. But, now I'm in just this complete laser focus on just sharing the practice. I don't even care about the rebuilding of the house. It'll get done, but it's not my major focus anymore. I kind of feel like I spent my year last year doing that. We actually went out and hired a design team to design the house this time, because I don't want to spend any more time on it. I want to spend time teaching Taya, let the designers, do whatever they want to do. In fact, I'm going to a meeting with them after this today. Let them do what they want to do to get the house put back, because I'm so into this. So when you're suffering and struggling, really creating some tools for yourself. And the lovely thing about all this is it's all going inward. It's all inner work for somebody that's struggling and can't do in an immersive mindset program or not yet, start the ball rolling by just loosening up that energy and those old habits of thought that you default back into, because it's your default vibration, right? It's that stuff that's running in the background in your subconscious mind that you aren't able to fully believe all the time. You can affirm and you can, listen to videos and do all these things to help yourself out, keep doing them. But it's that default vibration, that subconscious train of thought that's always running, that if your life isn't what you want it to be, know that you've got work to do there. But it's work that you need to make it fun. We're not going to do anything for very long if we don't enjoy it. So we need to make it fun and play little games and create little tools. And, there's a wealth of teachers out there, and just start sampling different teachers and different podcasts and different, YouTube channels and all that stuff, and discern a preference for what really seems like the right thing for you and what doesn't.
I wanted to bring up affirmations for a second, because I'm a huge advocate of affirmations. I try to get at least 200 in, 100 when I wake up. I won't even let myself get out of bed, and I'm doing stretching while I'm doing that, and at least 100 before I go to sleep. Plus what I do throughout the day. And I just wanted to bring this up for everybody who are out there who's did affirmations, but they quote unquote didn't work. You have to understand, for years and years and years, you've been doing other affirmations. Like me and David were talking about before. It's hard to get ahead. Money is hard to get. I need to spend just a little bit. I can't spend that much. I can't spend that much. I can't spend that much. You see a commercial, I'd like that, but I can't spend that much. Your mind is doing affirmations all day long, with or without your permission. So when you look at it like that, now you have an over under. I do 200 a day. Well, if I did 6,000 in the negative and 200 towards the positive, where's my over under? And that's why I try to focus a lot on like the in-between thoughts, the thoughts that are just running in the background on autopilot. When you really shift those into doing the affirmations you want them to do, when you really shift your mind into bringing up the topics you want it to bring up and looking at things the way you want it to look at things, that is the huge difference between affirmations really working and not working. But that leads me to part two. What's the next thing someone should do? Because I'm gonna be doing it myself, because I got money blocks, I got all that other stuff like everybody else, and imposter syndrome. So once I start waking up more, and anytime I see these scenarios coming in, I get present and appreciate something that's currently great about my life. And I start doing that more and more often, I start getting good at doing that. What is the next phase in this mindset shift?
My next thing was exactly what you just said. I call that a stopgap, where you train yourself to notice where you are and what you're thinking at the onset of the thought. And you can do that very easily. It's just a habit that you create for yourself. And then you train yourself with a stopgap. My stopgaps, one of the first things I teach people in boot camp, because they're going to have that little voice of limiting beliefs chime in while they're in boot camp. One of the first things I teach them is to create a name, give your negative voice an identity that doesn't mean anything else to you. It's unique, and it will be like this other being that isn't you. So instead of part of your ego saying, "Oh no, David, you can't do that. You're not good enough. You're never going to be as smart as that person. You're never going to be as successful. It's never going to work." I decided that wasn't me anymore. That was Claude. Claude didn't have any other meaning in my life. I just named that Claude. I have a video from years ago. I was living on the bay in San Francisco. I was sitting outside, talking about Claude. It was one of the first things I did on YouTube. And it helped me recognize it when it chimed in, because it wasn't me anymore. It wasn't just my voice that was on autopilot. It was like this annoying external thing that was trying to speak to me from outside. No, Claude, shut up, Claude. I didn't say it out loud. You could, if you wanted to, but I would shut it down. And so then I created another stopgap whenever I felt triggered by anything. And if you haven't worked on your triggers in some sort of a mindset practice, then you probably have a lot of triggers, more than you even realize. Because when we teach people to start looking at triggers, they will start saying, "Gosh, I'm more triggered now than ever." And we say, "No, you're not. You're noticing how triggered you've always been into these thought patterns." I say to myself, is this, if I feel my mood drop, my vibration drop, and we can feel that, right? We know, is this worth going down my spiral over? And I always say, no, it's not, because I catch myself before I take that vibrational plummet. I catch myself and realize this is not worth going down my spiral over. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go choose something else. And we all know that if you go down your spiral and you try to solve something, your solving power is not great. You're sort of recycling old ideas, where if your vibration is higher, you are very creative in that high vibrational space, and you're magical in that space, and things usually just work themselves out. I can't tell you how many times I've been frustrated with a piece of technology and walked away from it and came back in a higher vibrational state and have it work just fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's a life-changing technique to create these stopgaps and just catch yourself before you go down I call it the thought train. You know, oh, here we go on the thought train. Not good enough, not smart enough, didn't have the right parents, people don't like me, I don't do well in these things, all that crap we tell ourselves. You just start overriding all of that with something that is more positive and more affirming to what you want.
It's so funny that so much of you just said has been my last 2 weeks. Well, we haven't really got a chance to talk about it, but if you ever watch like Young Justice or old Avengers, not Avengers, like Superman shows and stuff like that, the cartoons, there is a character named Clarion. And he's this weird demon. He's like a kid. He sounds like a kid and he complains like a kid, like, oh man. And he always has this cat, but he's way more powerful than everybody else. He's like this wizard type thing. He snaps his fingers and you turn into smoke, you know, a talking thing of smoke. So, but he's that mischievous. He's that running around doing stuff, disruptive, laughing while he's doing it. And so I had given my ego that name. And it's funny because I had never read it in a book, anything like that. It just happened. What happened was I was trying to celebrate something that was big, and it stepped up and basically said it wasn't big enough. It wasn't as big as what you want. I know what you want. That's not as big enough. So why are you so happy about it? And I was like, damn, calm down. Like, just like that. I was like, I looked down. I was like, yo, calm down. Like, it's okay. We're good. Like this, we can live in this. We can have this. And that's where our conversation started. And so that's when I gave it a name, because I know that giving it a name, you disassociate from it. Learn that.
A little schizophrenia goes a long way.
Yeah, you know, I'm a huge fan of talking to yourself.
Let's pull those personalities out and detune them. Yeah, I love it.
I'm a huge fan of talking to myself. I do it every night from at least midnight till 7 in the morning. Plus, I'm doing it all day long anyway. And it's funny when people hear me say that, they're like, but I always bring this up. If you've ever been in front of a group of people and you needed to solve a really important problem, you see everybody, hold on, wait. All right, first we're going to go over here. We're going to go over there, you know, carry the two. All right. So you talk to yourself in a group full of people to get the ultimate clarity and the answers you need. Why not do it while you're by yourself? Like, it just makes sense to me. So I'm a huge fan of talking to myself, but now taking a step further, talking to Clarion, specifically when Clarion says what he says, what he does. And the first thing I end up saying all the time is relax. I treat it like a kid, like that doesn't know any better. Relax. We're good. It's okay to celebrate this. It's okay to see myself in that situation, even though that's not currently what's happening. I'm doing it for our future. And I know you want that too. So relax, work with me here, you know. And ever since, it's only been about 2 or 3 weeks, ever since I've been talking and having these little conversations, I've noticed the frequency reduction. He doesn't pop up as often before. And when he pops up, he has a different dialogue now. Now he still comes up every now and then.
Well, he was your creation to begin with. So you get to mold all of that into something different. I love that.
Every now and then he still pops up with the bull stuff, with the bull crap. You know, you can't do that. And then it's like, whoa, relax. Remember, hot-headed. Remember, it's okay. We both want this. And this is how we're going to get there, by me seeing it. It's not true. It's not what's happening right now, because I'm not speaking till November at the New York Dental Festival. But we need to see it this way. We need to celebrate and rejoice in it now to get us there. And I know that's what you want, because that's what I want. So relax. Let me sit in this headspace. And I'm telling you, ever since I've opened up this dialogue, I've lived a different life. I've lived a completely different life, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is. So it's so funny that you're talking about this, and I just recently have been going through this. Well, I hear you chomping at the bits.
No. I'm trying to remember when I was in boot camp what the name of my alter ego was. I can't remember what the name was. I don't use the name anymore. I still have the conversation. The conversation is very short. It's stop it. That's the end of the conversation.
Maybe that's the name. It's just stop it.
Stop it.
I've found that saying it nicer has gotten me better results, because I've been telling shut up and stop it for years, and it just
I was doing the opposite. I was trying to be kind to it, and it kept coming back. Stop it actually stopped it.
Oh wow! I will work with that then.
Yeah, well, I used to. That's
for
back
years,
when I had Claude. It was shut up, Claude. Not now, Claude. Go away. Because in the beginning, I needed to be combative with it to shut it down because it was so active.
Yeah.
For years, for me, I would cuss it out, like, "What the dude? Come on!" Like, and stop. And it did not work. And when I got calm, and I said, "Let me try something new I've never tried before. Let me just." Relax. It's okay. Relax. Like how I would want. Because remember, I'm seeing this as like a child. Mm-hmm. And when you tell a child to stop, they're probably going to do it again. But when you make them feel comfortable, they see you relax and they want to relax too. They think that's the way to go. And that's exactly how I treat it, like a child. And I'm just guiding it. And then I've taken that a step further into seeing myself in there. Like not me, but a child version of me that's just got the mind of Clarion. That demon monster thingy. So yeah, I love it. What else you got?
That's not all that different from the way I look at it, even though I use the stop it motif, because I do think of it kind of like a childlike entity. And what often happens is I'll say stop it, and it'll try to keep going. I'll say stop it, almost like to the kid, right? Don't stop. Don't push the boundary there. You're not going to get away with that.
Don't touch that button.
Don't go there.
So what's next, David?
So my other big topic is detuning the fear of the matrix, detuning the fear of what we see that's being fed to us all day long in media, that this is scary and that's scary and this is crumbling and the planet's dying, and there's a lot of negativity. You're Mr. Positivity, and you're well aware there's a lot of negativity being broadcast and sort of fed to us all the time. And ultimately, I believe that when we get into spiritual practices, generally we shut that stuff down as much as we can. I like to say, that's really good in the beginning, but you ultimately want to move to a place where you don't have to hide from anything anymore. Mm-hmm. Where you can, I get on TikTok almost every morning. I sit with my coffee now, and TikTok is my source of information, because I love how it's the algorithm just sort of gives you more of whatever you pay attention to. So I've got a news feed happening in there. I've got, kind of current event type stuff I can flip through in a couple of seconds and get just a little taste of what's going on in the world. And it doesn't lower my vibration, because I have taught myself not to judge it, not to fear it. That, hey, this is just the matrix, and it's okay that people are freaking out about stuff. They're having their experience. I don't have to go down my spiral about it. It's, I don't even have to do the stopgap around that stuff anymore, because we're all in it. We're all in the matrix. We're all subject to other people's ideas and behaviors and all of that stuff. And I want to keep my vibe high, because I know when my vibe is high, most of the time, life is going to be really, really good. And even when it dips down, if I'm not fearing and judging the dip, then I'm going to move right through whatever that low vibe experience is and right back out of it. That's what I love about the practice, is we acknowledge that we're human beings, we're vibrational, we're not static, we're going to have high and low, and it's managing that flow differently. So that's the set of tools is all about knowing that we're sometimes going to get pulled back into an old habit or an old experience, remanifesting in a different way. But it's okay. That's part of the human journey. But we also have ultimate. Am I making that noise, or is that, I keep hearing this like ping? Are you hearing that?
I'm not hearing it now.
Okay, it's just on my end. As long as it's not disturbing the listeners, it's fine. I keep hearing this weird ping, and I don't know what it is. So just creating a system for yourself so that you can interact with humanity in a state of appreciation as opposed to fear and judgment. And that does wonders for your vibration. And then you get into the scenario. I'll tell you a secret about people that have been through boot camp. We've had, gosh, over 150, maybe close to 200 people go through now. The ones that come in saying they want to manifest money have the most trouble manifesting money. I have a woman that's about to graduate right now, and she was another one that kind of reminded me this has been the trend all along. She says, I've got all this, I got a raise at work, and all of a sudden this inheritance that I thought was long gone and I was never going to get just showed up one day. All this money's coming in. And I said, well, it's kind of funny. You didn't want me. She says, I didn't care about money. I have an okay job and money didn't mean anything to me. And here it is. And it's funny, when you raise your vibration, abundance loosens up and flows just naturally. You just naturally have more of that stuff coming in. It's the people that are in the vibration of need. I need more money. I need to figure out how to manifest more money. I need to, do these things to get more money flowing in. I notice them in my bird's eye view. They're the ones that have the most trouble, because they have that, I'm here for this reason and I have this need. And I will tell them early on, put that out of your mind, because the quickest way to not manifest money is to believe that you need money. And the people that I noticed that just generally raise their vibration through detuning transgressors and all these, elements of their ego that kind of bog them down, then the abundant stuff just happens. It's just like a natural thing that just flows. It's amazing how that works, but that's my big thing, is just detune that damn matrix. That's everything.
It's one of the biggest things I took away from doing the boot camp. Exactly what you just talked about. Being able to appreciate what we call in boot camp the transgressors, the negative stuff that happens, and take some practice to get there. Man, when you get there, that really is powerful. You're absolutely right. That is just, it's amazing how powerful, and it's powerful in a kind of a strange way, because you don't really necessarily see the power day to day. Sometimes you do, but most often you don't. You kind of have to look over a period of time and say, oh yeah,
you shift gradually over time. And the reason, and I remember hearing back when I listened to Abraham talking about quantum leaps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten clarity from Abraham and the stream on quantum leaps are possible. Anything's possible, but they're not probable, simply because we have this habit of thought that keeps us in this rhythm.
Right.
So, because we want to have a human experience. We're not here to have quantum leaps. We're not here to completely be a different person tomorrow, because the whole experience of being human is that linear journey of getting better or worse over time and having our experience and going up and down our spiral and doing all those things. That's what creates the expansion that we come here for. Mm-hmm. So, doing a practice is so very important. I'm all about belief systems. I say everyone has a belief system. Atheists have a belief system. Mm-hmm. Baptists have a belief system. Catholics, and usually our belief system is something that we create early on in life, based on our exposure to what's around us, religion, parents, culture, laws, and all of that stuff. And we craft this belief system for ourselves, and we all have it. And as we get older, we might suddenly decide that our belief system isn't working for us anymore, and we're going to walk away from it. More times than not, people walk away from religion. They walk away from Christianity. That's something I see growing now. And they proclaim that they're an atheist, and then they go right back into giving all their power to politics or money or something like that. And that's why I created Taya, because it's a chosen belief system, and it works in harmony with universal law. And the community aspect of it is very important. That's why people love coming on here and sharing these ideas about stuff, because when you get out of this scenario and you go talk to your friends and family, they may think you're a kook, because you believe that you create your own reality. And it's okay if they do, but you can't have this type of intellectual discussion with them like we're having right now.
No. And that's all because of the bad things that have happened in their life. Nobody wants to own.
They don't want to accept it. Yeah. There's no way I manifested that. Yeah.
Yeah. That car accident 10 years ago. Those are the two things I get. Car accident 10 years ago and my grandma dying. Those are the two things that people always bring up. And I'm like, dude, you got to sit back and think about it. If your grandma's 99 years old, it's on the forefront of everyone's mind every time they think about her, because life is life and it has an end, so it's kind of, and the car accident thing, you don't have to be thinking about a car accident specifically to manifest a car accident. It's the feeling that comes with it, the drama, the stress, Now I got to get a new car. Now I got to, you know, all this other stuff, deal with the insurance companies, get a lawyer, all this other stuff. So yeah, it's, you have to be really careful where you're shifting your energy to. It's funny you said the Matrix, and I want to know if you guys felt like this. Right at the end of the first movie, you guys, I'm assuming you've all seen the first movie, right? The first Matrix.
A long time ago.
Well, right at the
when
end,
it first came out.
I'm pretty sure he hung up a phone, and he knew who he was, and he was about to fly. And he looked around to the left at the people walking around, and he looked around to the right at the people walking around. And then he took off. He flew away. But it's that moment when he looked left and right and what he saw, a bunch of people that were still plugged in, and he wasn't. I've kind of felt like that my whole life. I've really felt like that my entire life. Like there was just something unplugged. I wasn't subscribed to the same reality that everyone else was. Have you guys felt like that your whole lives, or was there a point where
I have participated in the Matrix for sure, and I feel more out of it now than ever. But I realized that my being out of the Matrix as a child was a survival technique in a kind of a crappy, childhood. And then I plugged into the Matrix as an adult and never fit into it. I always felt like, God, this is crazy. This is weird. My favorite catchphrase was, and still is, bullshit makes the world go round. It sounds very cynical, but I actually celebrate that because everything is an illusion of consciousness. So why get upset if the Supreme Court is corrupt, or why get upset if politics are corrupt, or the banking system and all of that stuff? You can be upset by it and feel victimized in it, or you can just sort of laugh it off. That's just the Matrix. Of course it is. Of course it is. We live in a world that runs largely on fear and judgment. Not always, not completely. There's so much other good stuff that isn't included in that that's what I choose to focus on. And the folks that are having their fear and judgment experience, they're contributing to the universe. They're contributing to the expansion of the universe, even in their suffering. And making peace with that. If you think it's hard for people to accept that they manifest, their obstacles, especially as children, it's even harder for people to accept that all of humanity is here having its experience as eternal beings, having a temporary human journey. And it's not really our business to judge what someone else is experiencing. Because again, that's another thing of the Matrix. You got to care and you got to have an opinion, and you're part of the problem if you don't. But that we have all these things that we battle that we notice never get solved. I can watch some old TV shows. I can watch, Archie Bunker from 1972, or there was some other show I was watching from the 80s not too long ago. And I watched these shows as kids, and it's funny because they're complaining about the same stuff in 1972 that we hear people complaining about right now.
What?
Nothing has changed. Nothing is really solved, but it's okay because it's the Matrix. It's all BS. It's an illusion of consciousness, and they're having the experience they're choosing to have.
Funny when you wrap your head around the whole Matrix illusion. People might say that's crazy. You gotta live in your normal life. But I tell you what, it helps you sleep better this way. Definitely helps you sleep better and accept things when you change your perception to this hippie talk or whatever people want to call this. I found so much peace in this, and like everything just being like perfect. This moment is perfect. That such and such was meant to happen. You know how I know? Because that's what happened. That helps me sleep so easy at night. And if it sounds like hippie stuff and it helps you sleep 10 times better, you might want to just adapt it.
Yeah. If you want to suffer in your judgment of what's going on across humanity, have at it. But the concept that we're going to save someone from their experience or save them from themselves, we know that rarely works. And we believe in energy and vibration. I believe we're doing more for humanity and our appreciation of it exactly the way it is than battling it. Going out and protesting and screaming and, you got to vote for this person because they're going to save us. Really? Really? My favorite thing is when you find out the one that you think is the good guy is just as corrupt as the one that you thought was the bad guy. Like, yeah. It's a Matrix. BS makes the world go around. It's fine.
I said the same thing when Obama was elected as I did when Trump was elected. Now, it doesn't matter to me. None of that's going to stop my grind. And it's not going to stop my paper. It's not going to stop my growth. That's just it. I don't care who's in office. And
I did the same thing. I'm like, I'm not going to participate in this. I'm not going to participate in a recession. I'm not going to participate in a crash of government. I'm not going to participate in giving power to who's a president. And I have proven to myself that my life can be really good when somebody is elected that is not supposed to be somebody that's supporting me, because it's our choice.
Well, did you always feel unplugged?
Well, I wanted to address that, because what you're talking about right now is the way that I felt unplugged. I didn't really think of it as being unplugged. The way I thought of it was, this world doesn't make any sense to me. And because it didn't make any sense to me, the way I thought was considered to be crazy. So my conclusion was, okay, I'm willing to be crazy. I'd rather be crazy than be part of what I see as crazy. So I'm just going to see myself as being crazy, and I'll live outside of all their craziness. So in that sense, I was unplugged. It was kind of a defense mechanism in a sense. Now, this is before I knew anything about, source energy, law of attraction, any of that kind of stuff. That was just like a starting point. But once I started getting exposed to all this stuff, I found myself kind of leaning back into that each time and asking myself, okay, well, how does that feel in my place that I've been in all this time? That what you're describing is unplugged. I kind of thought of it as well, I'm the sane one in a world of insanity. How does it feel like in that? And actually, the whole source energy motif, I guess you could call it, started to make sense to me. Life started to make sense to me. The things that didn't make sense to me before started to make sense. Because
how old were you at this phase?
This is like since I started the podcast.
So like 13 years ago, you said, right? Or somewhere around there.
Oh, less than that. Well, I started 10 and a half years ago. So
okay,
within the last 10 years.
Because you were a political science major, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I was very politically active. I was libertarian, all that kind of stuff. But even there, I was doing that. I wouldn't have said that at the time, but I think I was kind of there because libertarians are so far outside that matched where I felt. I felt like I was completely outside of all that insanity.
That's what I was thinking. I know you had to have felt like.
Yeah.
So wait, so growing up, did you feel like that too? Like you were, everybody was still plugged into the matrix. Like I just like that. I like that example because that's exactly how I felt. I was like, these people just don't get it. And I didn't know what it was to get. Yeah. I was a child. I didn't know what it was to get. I just knew they didn't get it.
Well, again, the way I didn't really think of it in those terms, but that's kind of what I added up to. The terms that I thought about it was, they're just crazy.
Okay. So that was your whole life. I thought that.
I live in a crazy world, and somehow I got to survive this crazy world.
Well, that is true though. This is a crazy world. Lots of crazy things happening.
That's one of the beautiful parts about learning the tire practice, because it gives you a way to not only be true to yourself, however you see yourself, but to do it in a way that's based in appreciation. Because now I can look back on that with an appreciative eye. And I can look on the world today in its 3D form with an appreciative eye. So David mentioned, for instance, he gets his news through TikTok. I love that. I get mine through Google News, but it's basically the same idea. And I mean, I see the stuff that's going on, and I have no emotional reaction to it. And there's still a piece of me that says, "Isn't there something wrong with you?" No, it's like, oh, this is kind of.
There's plenty of people that will argue with you that you need to be upset about things.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to choose that.
No.
Gosh, it can be really challenging because you're challenging their belief system. That's what we see when people are angry. They feel like their belief system is being challenged in some way.
Yeah.
And they need validation. Well, we don't need validation. We prove our belief system to ourselves, and we don't need other people to believe the way that we do, because we're appreciative of where they are in their own belief system. We understand they are creating their reality via their belief system, period.
And a big news event going on these days is the war in Ukraine, right? Now, that's full of a lot of death and destruction, and I'm fully aware of all of that, but I'm not emotionally connected into that in any way. Instead, this is going to sound maybe cynical or even sick, but I look at it and I say, wow, they're really playing out the law of attraction. I mean, I every single time I see something new in that news cycle, it's like, oh, there's another law of attraction thing going on. This is what's going through my mind every single day as I'm reviewing all these headlines.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't feel any of what they're feeling. Stay numb to it, because you don't want to attract.
Not numb to it, because that's a form of blocking. More along the lines of appreciating what's the good side of it.
We'll stay that to it.
Yeah, they're having my saying, talk about stopgaps and sayings. My saying is they're having their experience.
Yeah.
Not for me to judge. My judgment of it is not going to change it. They're having their experience. And it's okay. We're all going to have challenges in our lives, and we're all going to separate from physical. We know that. You mentioned that already. We're going to move through this physical experience, and it's going to come to a conclusion somehow, some way. It is. And that whole fear of death, talk about a powerful tool of the Matrix, teaching you to fear what you know is inevitable.
It's a big
Talk
one.
about what just think about what that does to your vibration. If you're constantly in the back of your mind, you don't want to die. Death is bad. It's terrible. It's awful. It should never happen. I'll never forget when my partner, we moved his elderly parents in with us into this house that we remodeled last year, and they had a section they lived in, and his father died 3 weeks after they moved in, and the priest came over, and the priest was trying to console his mother who had just lost her husband. And, oh, this is terrible. This is the worst thing ever. And I'm thinking, really? The guy was 80 something years old. He was on hospice. He was not in good shape. And, you're sitting here, I guess, trying to console her by telling her basically this shouldn't have happened.
Mm.
This shouldn't have happened. It's the worst thing ever. It's terrible. And, I kind of had to detune my judgment on that. I'm like, well, I had a whole different opinion with her. Like, hey, he had his lovely life and he wanted to move into his son's house. He told the nurse that he wanted to go after he moved in. He manifested exactly that exit 3 weeks later. It was the most peaceful thing I had ever experienced in my life, witnessing. And why do we have to be upset by this? We don't. We're choosing to be upset by it,
Right.
and if you want to be upset, it's fine, but it's a chosen experience, and it's not the worst thing ever. It's natural.
I want to bring something up because Cheryl in the comments said that she's Ukrainian, and the people are furious that she's not furious about the situation. And not to compare or minimize anything, but I want to take this, be it something extreme or something small like the Super Bowl. It's kind of like you can either get upset or you can just not let it affect you. As an Eagles fan, great season. We go to the Super Bowl. We're playing against a team that's quarterback is hurt. It's a wash for us. It's just a guaranteed. And then they lose.
Mm.
And I know their squad was on suicide watch. Meanwhile, I was like, I could either let this affect me for the next couple of weeks or just, and which in turn will manifest more pain and anguish, or I can choose to not let it manifest more pain and anguish in whatever ways. And it's kind of that same way with Ukraine. You can either, at this point, as a Ukrainian, you can either choose to let it destroy you, which is going to destroy your future, or you could find another way. And Cheryl, I'm happy you found another way. Haters are going to hate. Let them do what they do. They don't affect you. Just like Obama making office and Trump making office. That didn't affect me in the slightest. I live in Florida. Everyone is a Trump supremacist out here. They are super Trump fans. So if you hear them talk, they make it seem like, I'm going to lose everything, because Trump didn't win again. And nothing has changed. Now that Biden's in there, nothing's changed. When I go to get gas, I don't look at the gas price. I haven't looked at gas price since I was a kid because I have to pay it anyway. If I want to go to work, if I had a job, if I want to go to work to get money, I gotta go. I have to pay, and so I just get it anyway. So yeah, I like that.
Did you see the comment? She says, "Oh, well, Eagles are a totally different situation." She says,
"Not really, but I get the moment." No, yeah, because it's whether you're upset about something small or you're upset about something large, it's still upset, and it's on a larger. It's just a different scale. In life, you have things you're happy about, things you're sad about. You could be happy about something small or ecstatic about because you're getting married or whatever, but it's still happy on a different scale. And that's all I mean by that. I'm definitely not trying to compare the Eagles Super Bowl victory loss, Ukrainian war. But yeah, you got to stay on top of that. Don't let anything, they say don't let anyone live rent-free in your mind. You have to apply that to situations. You can't just apply that to people, because I know people that are very successful at keeping other people's ideations and all that from living rent free in their mind, but they let their situations consume them to the point where they're manifesting a terrible life and sadness and all this other stuff. So you got to look at everything that way.
Now, Neil, I know you got to get going pretty quick because you got to go pick up your kid. But
I was supposed to pick him up at 4:30. My son's teacher leaves at 4:30.
Oh, okay, so we're a little late.
Yeah, no, because it's worth it. But he could stay there, because what happened was he punched. I pulled up to the school yesterday, and there was a letter for me. When there's a letter, it's no good. This is the second one I got, and the letter, he punched somebody in their stomach, and that's all it said. And I had to sign for it, and I took him. I asked him what happened, and he said they said they were made of metal. And as in, he watched Avengers, he's into cartoons. When someone says they're made of metal, you punch them. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, why? I said, you can't do that. And he said, well, I told him I was Superman and they punched me in my arm. And so they had a conversation. He said he was Superman. They said they were metal. They punched him in his arm. And so he, okay. And they said, you're not Superman. Watch this. They punched him in the arm. He said, okay, you're not metal. Watch this. Punched him in the stomach. And so I get it. You shouldn't have done that. I will not condone that at all. But this is the second time he got in trouble, and they didn't voice what happened before. What set him off on that path? He got punched, so he punched somebody. They didn't tell me that. Last time he pulled his pants down. Why did he pull his pants down? Because somebody pulled his pants down to him, and he was just like, oh, well, I'm going to do it too. They didn't put that in the letter. They just tell me he pulls pants down, so I'm ready to punish him. No game, no TV. I'm ready to punish him, but it's like, he's, I hate to just say he's being provoked, but at the end of the day, he is. And, I don't condone any of that behavior.
Yeah, he's got to create those. Is this worth pulling down my pants over?
Yeah, he's 5 years old. COVID kept him from interacting with other kids, because there was no go to the park and learn how to interact with other kids.
Yeah,
he learned how to interact with kids when he went to school the first day in August. So
I'm sure that was, at that age, I'm sure that was a very hard time.
So he's very fresh to everything. So I don't condone any of the bad behavior, but I need to know what happened first. I've gotten in trouble once as a child because I punched this guy in the face, and that's all it said on the paper. And my dad was very upset. You're a karate champion. You would never just punch somebody in the face. And he's laying into me. He's telling me what he's going to take from me, and he's not going to give me allowance anymore. And he's like, why did you do it? Well, because he kicked me in my head. What? And that's when everything changed. I was in the locker room. His friends dared him to kick me in my head when I was, doing what I was doing, bent over, sitting down on the bench, and he kicked me in my head. So I got up and destroyed his face. I'm a karate champion. I'm not just going. So that changed the whole situation once he found that out. And so I'm just not a huge fan of getting those letters. So both incidents take place after his teacher leaves, which is at 4:30. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start getting them at 4:30, because once his teacher leaves, I guess they put him in other classrooms with other kids. And so that's why I was gonna duck out of here early, but they can keep him for a little while longer. David was worth it. Walt, you're worth it.
So this is data collection, is what you're really saying here. You're collecting some more data about what happens after 4:30.
That's it. Yeah, I gotta collect some more data. Plus, I wanted to get I did want to start getting him out of there when his teacher leaves, because when he goes with the group, that's when things seem to be happening. But now they need to work this out for real. So that's that.
I'm sure. What I can tell you is, David, I love it when you come onto the show, and I imagine you'll be back in another month and a half or so. But
I love coming on, so I'll definitely be back.
Yeah, so thank you once again, and I love that you're doing the new the Thai Practice podcast. I just learned today that you're doing that, but that's a great thing. Keep going.
Yeah, so we'll have a second podcast now, weekly, the Thai Practice. It was supposed to launch this week, but we had a technical issue, so hopefully next week.
Good David, get with me on Instagram and TikTok. We gotta make sure we follow each other, because I want to really learn more about it.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So thank you, guys. Thank you, live streamers. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
No.